Good evening. Today, I want to talk about the treatment of deadly diseases in America's history and why Washington was right. Now, many of you know that Washington inoculated his troops during the Revolutionary War in order to limit the spread of smallpox among the troops. But it is a little known fact that it was actually illegal at the time to inoculate your troops. It was a process known as variolation. Variolation is the process of taking a small scalpel, a small knife, or anything that you can use to slather, getting the pus of infected individuals and spreading that onto cuts or open abrasions onto a healthy soldier's skin. And what that does is that puts a small strain of the virus inside a healthy person's body, gets them sick, but allows the body to create antibodies. Now, smallpox has an incubation period of 12 to 14 days. At the time, they knew this, and they wanted to ensure that all troops were properly inoculated before they were sent to battle. Washington liked to inoculate his troops 2 to 3 weeks before they went to battle, sometimes even months. This was important because it was illegal at the time, Washington could not do that. And that was a failure that was seen in a battle in Quebec. So Washington took his troops up to Quebec, but failed to inoculate any of them. And because of that, a strain of smallpox ran rampant through the camp. That killed over half of his troops, and that was the main reason why they lost that battle. Former President John Adams liked to say that smallpox was worse than the combined forces of the Britons, the Indians, and the Canadians combined. Congress and the Virginia legislature outlawed variolation. There was strict taboo against the act because in the past it was shown to be very risky, bold, and sometimes had a lot more risks than it did benefits. In this case, though, George Washington was right because of his boldness, his troops didn't contract smallpox and won a lot of major battles throughout the Revolutionary War because of this newly improved process. And before I go further, I want to talk about a little bit of the history of smallpox and other pandemics that affected America in the past. Smallpox is caused by the variola virus. Now, the variola virus is spread by animals. Any virus that has the suffix of pox, smallpox, chickenpox, measles, mumps, what have you, is transmitted through animals. This is why it is predominant among pigs and other Revolutionary War animals and livestock. In the past, the Spanish flu and other viruses such as chickenpox have wreaked havoc all over the continental United States. The Spanish flu was known as the worst epidemic of all time, killing multitudes of the population of the United States, a lot more, or much more rather, than all the other epidemics combined. Chickenpox has been around since 1658, and to this day, there are 70 million diagnoses a year. The most recent pandemic has been the COVID-19 pandemic. It has reawakened new outlets of quarantine and allowing for people to acclimate to these situations that haven't been around for over 50 years. Now, to get to the topic at hand, variolation was right then, but it is not right now. All I'm saying is that Washington was right in his move to inoculate his troops and go bypassing the laws and the practices of the people around him. And because of his bravery, his troops survived. The Revolutionary War was won because of the amount of people that George Washington helped to survive the epidemic rather. The vaccine wasn't invented until 1798, and so the moral ethical debate over whether variolation is right was not sound until after the vaccine was created. There are many fears, religious and political alike, that cause people to not go for scientific practices. But it's people like George Washington who tend to push the pencil and allow for these new innovations to improve our society. Why does this matter today? COVID, any virus, any pandemic, any epidemic shouldn't change the facets of daily life. Social distancing, masks, all of these things shouldn't affect the day-to-day of American life. George Washington is a symbol of this because he chose to listen to the experience and the wisdom of past peoples and past outcomes of using inoculation and variolation on their troops in order to help his goal. And because of his bravery, we can see today why it's very important to understand that some medical practices are needed to be bypassed in order to get things done, in order to improve society, and in order to improve the livelihood of American lives. That's my works cited.